A widowed retiree begins receiving nightly phone calls from his brother asking one chilling question. Are you alone? What starts as concern slowly reveals obsession, control, and a secret so disturbing it shatters trust, destroys a family bond, and turns the idea of safety into a lie. This is the story of Daniel Brooks, a 64-year-old retired man living alone in a quiet American neighborhood. And this is the story of how a single lie exposed a truth so disturbing that it nearly destroyed his sense of safety, his family, and everything he believed about loyalty. Daniel Brooks lived in a modest two-story house in Maplewood, Ohio, a calm suburban town where most people waved politely but rarely asked personal questions. He had lived in that house for nearly 15 years, ever since his wife Elaine passed away after a long battle with cancer. The house was too big for one person. Every room carried memories. Framed photographs lined the staircase. A faded wedding portrait still hung in the hallway. The silence inside those walls felt heavier at night. Daniel had spent 37 years working as a financial analyst for a regional firm before retiring. He lived a quiet life now. He volunteered at the local senior center twice a week. He built small wooden furniture in his garage. He kept routines because routines felt safe. The one constant in his life was his younger brother, Mark Brooks. Mark was 61. He lived about 40 minutes away in Riverside Heights, a nearby city. Mark was married to Susan, and they had two adult daughters who both lived in Arizona. The brothers had always been close. After their parents died, they became each other's support system. They talked often. They met for dinner once a month. There had never been secrets between them, until 8 months ago. It started on a Tuesday night in early spring. Daniel was sitting in his living room reading when his phone rang at exactly 9:30 p.m. The timing alone was unusual. "Daniel?" Mark's voice sounded sharp, controlled, but tense. Daniel answered casually, asking if everything was okay. There was a brief pause before Mark asked something strange. "Are you alone right now?" The question caught Daniel off guard. Of course he was alone. He always was. Daniel answered honestly, then asked why Mark needed to know. Mark brushed it off, said he was just checking in, said he wanted to make sure his older brother was safe. Then he ended the call abruptly. Daniel sat there confused, phone still in his hand. It didn't make sense. Mark had never spoken to him like that before. The next night, the phone rang again, 9:30 p.m., exactly. Same question, same urgency. "Are you alone? Doors locked? Windows secure?" Daniel laughed it off at first, but by the end of the week, the calls hadn't stopped. Every night, same time, same questions. Mark needed to know who Daniel had seen that day, whether anyone had visited, whether Daniel planned to go out. At first, Daniel answered patiently. Then he grew unsettled. After 2 weeks, he confronted his brother. This wasn't normal. This felt like surveillance, not concern. Mark became defensive. He insisted he was just being responsible, that Daniel was older and living alone, that a brother had the right to worry. Against his better judgment, Daniel agreed to keep answering the calls. That decision would haunt him. By early summer, the ritual controlled Daniel's evenings. He stopped going out late. He kept his phone nearby. He structured his day around that 9:30 call. One afternoon, Mark's wife, Susan, called Daniel privately. She was worried. Mark wasn't sleeping. He paced at night. He checked his phone constantly. He refused to explain why those nightly calls mattered so much. Even Susan didn't know the truth. Daniel began listening more carefully to Mark's voice. There was tension there. Relief when Daniel confirmed he was alone. Fear when calls went unanswered. One night, Daniel ignored the call. Within minutes, Mark called repeatedly, panic evident in his voice. That fear didn't feel imagined. It felt real. By late summer, Daniel noticed something else. Small things inside his house felt different. A chair slightly moved. A curtain pulled back. Mail shifted. At first he blamed himself, but then his spare key, hidden outside, appeared disturbed. That night, Daniel mentioned it casually to Mark. Mark reacted instantly. Too instantly. He demanded details, asked precise questions, then insisted Daniel install security cameras. Daniel hesitated but agreed. He placed cameras in the living room, kitchen, and near the back door. Mark seemed calmer afterward, almost relieved. 3 quiet weeks passed. Then one afternoon, Daniel visited an old colleague at the hospital. While sitting in that room, he checked his camera app. Movement appeared on the screen. Someone was inside his house. Daniel panicked. He called the police. He drove home, shaking. Officers cleared the house. Nothing was stolen. The back door had been unlocked. Daniel felt violated. That night, the phone rang at 9:30. Mark asked the usual question. Daniel lied. For the first time in 8 months, he said everything was fine, and something changed. Mark's tone shifted. His questions became probing. He wanted details. Daniel didn't sleep that night, because one thought wouldn't leave his mind. How did Mark know to worry before anything happened? The next day, a detective interviewed Daniel. She asked if any family members had keys. Daniel mentioned Mark. Even saying the name felt wrong. That night, Mark called again. This time, Daniel knew. Mark was checking what Daniel knew. On Sunday evening, Daniel made a decision. He told Mark he was spending the night at a neighbor's house. He made sure his cameras were active. At 9:52 p.m., the back door opened. The intruder entered confidently. They